One of the things I found particularly valuable is we're not critical friends kind of in isolation. We've actually joined in a little network to sort of discuss issues and share problems and, you know, basically learn from each other. And I think that actually I found that incredibly useful, because if I've had sort of some kind of issue that I'm not, or I'm a little bit undecided on, we've had these sort of regular virtual group sessions where we discuss these, and it's been incredibly helpful.
I felt a bit naughty having these meetings away from the management's ears, you know, because we did have scheduled some official critical friends meetings with the management group, and so having this other meeting seemed a little subversive at first. But I think you're right, it was a learning experience for us as well, and whilst a number had been critical friends on other projects, Jisc and Academy projects, I think having the network, and a question, was it serendipitous or was it planned and strategic, was actually very useful, because it did allow you to bring issues of a general nature to the critical friends group and say, well, you know, how's that working for you? And I remember we had, for example, a very interesting discussion about organising the first Camel meeting and the responses we got or not got from our clusters, and whether we were going for a lunchtime to lunchtime or a daytime, were we having dinner, blah blah blah. And I think that was really useful, because that allowed us to clarify our thinking a bit and be clearer about what we were saying, and we knew what other critical friends had experienced and said when we worked with our own clusters.
I think that's hugely valuable.
Yeah, and I think it also gave you a kind of benchmark as to how you were doing in terms of being able to compare where you were, where your cluster was in relation to what was happening in the other clusters.
Yeah, I think trading tips on how to deal with issues and problems has been hugely helpful through that. But also getting feedback on the wider support network that's been around the programme as well, where maybe one cluster has had input from a particular specialist on a particular thing and has kind of evaluated that, and then through the network has shared the value of it with their cluster with the rest of us.
Because I remember we did that for the
change management.
The INTES simulation.
That's right, you know, and that convinced me that was probably a good thing to do in my cluster.
And actually, I remember we shared our first report to Jisc. Remember, we actually kind of fairly spontaneously said, well, what have you written? How much have you written? How much detail have you put in? I think actually the fact that we decided to share those, I think we only did it the first couple of times, but I think that was incredibly useful too.